Cool. So I think a decent number of you have met me before. If not, my name's Dan. I'm the co-founder CTO at eola. And yeah, we're here today to talk about the new widget. I'm obviously going to show you like what it's like and how it works. But a big part today, I kind of like want to talk about the large amount of effort that went into the new widget and like why it is such a big deal for us and hopefully for you. So if I'm going to share my screen and talk you through it. So, new widget. First of all, let's talk about some of the challenges with the old one. So, well, old or current, as you want to, however you see it. So initially, the widget was designed to have a pretty, clear end-to-end flow. You are a customer who is on the outlet's website and you would like to purchase one of the things that you've seen. So it's very optimized for taking a single booking for a single activity. It is an incredibly good widget for exactly that purpose. But I'm sure as many of you have experienced or can maybe even guess that like for some of the more obscure scenarios, the widget just really wasn't that well optimized for it. It required more clicks. It was confusing for customers. And like whilst people, the conversion rate as a whole was still really good, it was clear to us as like a company that cares a lot about like products and UX that we made sure that this was not like the long-term trajectory of the widget. We needed to make sure that this was going to be a much better experience. Lily, who's the person who's kind of coordinating this webinar, has reminded me to say that, yeah, there is a Q&A at the end. So do pile in with your questions and Lily can either forward ones that are like relevant to the exact thing I'm on right now, or we can just go through like more general questions at the end. So the challenges kind of came from three areas. One is there was a huge number of variants of the widget. So again, with like the initial intention, it was going to be you book a single activity. After you book that activity, you sign the question pack. You sign the disclaimer and you answer the question pack if the center had one. But what if the center has categories? It has rentals. Maybe it doesn't have any activities. It only has rentals. Maybe it only has no rentals, no activities. You got class passes. You got vouchers of different kinds. They need to be, redeemed in different places. From our perspective as well, we've made it so that you have like a level of customizability around the widget experience. So you can break it down into categories. You can have big mode. You got small mode. And the marketplace system that we have itself uses the widget infrastructure as it stands. So there's, from a technical perspective, a huge number of variants that we need to deal with. And that made progress on improving it more challenging. Because again, you're going to keep on coming back to it. Like we had this in mind that we wanted to book a single experience. We also, out of that kind of like variation challenge, we had a huge design complexity challenge. It's all well and good saying, we, as I'm sure most of you know as well, like we do a lot of talking with customers. And it's all well and good, like some people feeding back saying that, this flow is a real challenge and isn't optimized for XYZ reason. But if we try too much to accommodate for that flow, it might be at the expense of another. So we needed to really like this is like a real I'll go into this a bit more, but that was a real big part of this. And the final thing, which is the kind of which led to one of the biggest technical changes that we've had across the board, is the existing or old widget does not support a shopping cart. And that is a huge technical change because we need to think about how can a customer purchase like an activity, a rental, a class pass, and potentially a voucher all in the same shopping cart, and then also provide a nice post-checkout experience that isn't just thumbs up, hope you enjoy whatever it is you're doing. So we needed to analyze how we can break that down. So we decided that we wanted to build a new widget rather than just iterating on what we had previously. So we were going to restructure the experience, which meant trying to genuinely stand back from the current widget, and rather than thinking about we could tweak this thing and tweak that thing, is what if we're going to start from scratch, which we are, how would we like to address all of the challenges that we've now learned about? Now that we've got years of experience in the doing this exact thing, what lessons have we learned? How do we want to readdress those problems? Something we've heard over and over again from customers is implementing a more brandable widget. How are we going to implement that? There's a lot of, again, challenges that come with that. Different outlets have very, very different logos, different color schemes. How do we accommodate that? The shopping cart is just a huge, that is something that was a huge challenge, and we needed to think about how we're going to deal with that. Pixel tracking. So currently, because the widget is hosted on eola, if you were going to create a Facebook advertising campaign, it's not easy for you to see what the conversion rate or success is of that campaign. And now you'll be able to provide a Facebook pixel code to us, and we will insert that into your widget so that you can have an end-to-end visibility of the success of your campaigns. Meaning if you're funneling money into advertising on Facebook and potentially Google Ads as well, you will be able to optimize much more effectively. We're adding internationalization. For some of you, this is a real game changer. So we've started working with a lot of centers in Wales, and Wales requires Welsh as a language that you provide your services in. This allows you to, for the customer, your customer, for each of your activities or rentals, whatever it is, provide multiple translations. And there's two aspects to this. One is the actual content itself that you're providing, the actual descriptions of the activities. You need to be able to provide them in whatever languages that you like. And the second angle is the actual user interface itself. How do we display the widget and the book now button and the this is what's in your shopping basket text in different languages? And the final thing, and this is kind of very related to memberships, is in widget login. For those of you that use memberships, which is in alpha, one of the more disjointed parts of the flow is you need to come outside of the widget to log in to actually use your membership, which is a very challenging flow for customers. So I've talked about a lot of problems, and I feel like I've started off quite negative, but I really wanted to paint the picture of the scale of the challenge that was in front of us. This was and is by far our biggest project to date. Previously, our biggest project was in the order of a few months. This has been over a year, and I'm 100% certain that this was time well spent, because it is a pretty revolutionary upgrade in the widget experience, which is super important for both us and you, because this ultimately, what it comes down to is happier customers and a higher conversion rate, which means good things for everyone involved. So we started this in November 2020 with the kind of very early versions rolling out the beginning of summer. And since then, we've just been talking to customers, doing a huge amount of building prototypes, putting them in front of people, asking them to work out what they would do here. Some of you have been part of that process as well, which has been really, really useful. As part of this, I was considering showing some of the feedback that we got, but it is overwhelming. And I would just be scrolling for hours. But the result is that we have a new widget, and it is beautiful, and it is amazing, and it should hopefully be a direct upgrade to every part of your kind of consumer-facing experience. So I'm going to show you some of that stuff. Again, I'm not going to do demo just yet. Just kind of want to reiterate a little bit more on that journey. So this was some of like our very early kind of reimagining of what the flow could look like. Because again, there are so many different configurations, and we want to make sure that we aren't presenting you, like our outlets and instructors, with an incredibly complex, almost spreadsheets configuration system, because that no one wants that. We needed to make sure that it was smart and catered for a huge variety of scenarios. So we were thinking about like, how do we break down that flow? Like what kind of customers do we need to prioritize more than others, and what kind of flows do we like flows into other ones? This was our very earliest iteration. And then after we nailed down what we were doing a little bit more, we had broken it down into a very beautiful design system. And this is also something I'm going to come back to later. This is the direction that eola is heading in general. A real big upgrade across the board, and not just for the widget itself. Every part of every screen has been thought through a huge amount. So Jamie and Martin on our team have been doing a huge amount of staring at the ceiling, talking to customers and talking to developers as well, and trying to understand how can we deliver the best thing pretty much without exception or compromise. And that means every single screen, every single button, every single interaction has been tested, thought through, and iterated on. That being said, it is not like a complete, you can't reach the end of this game. For every single person here, hopefully everyone turns on the new widget if you haven't already. But please, please, please do provide direct feedback from either yourself as the person owning the widget, or if you hear any feedback from your customers, that would be incredibly useful. Because there's one thing putting a prototype in front of someone and trying to like understand how they react to things, how they interpret stuff, but there's nothing more valuable than actually having people use the widget in real world and get real feedback from real customers. So this is the new widget. I'm showing it to you on mobile because that is what it's optimized for. Something like 80% of all bookings take place on mobile. And that's something that should be hopefully aware of anyway when creating your web experience. So we are designing this for mobile initially. After it is rolled out and we are kind of happy with the experience, then further down the line, we are looking at potentially implementing a desktop optimized experience, which will allow them to essentially just make more use of the screen real estate. So I'm just going to go through and book a normal activity. So one thing that hopefully you'll notice immediately, probably won't come across that well on a Zoom call, is that the speed of the experience is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because we built it, but genuinely, I don't think I've come across any kind of like complex experience that is this fast. And that has a real direct impact on conversion rates. Again, if you imagine, like most of you are based in pretty rural areas, if your customers are near you, like on holiday, they're probably on their phone on a dodgy internet connection trying to work out with their friends what they want to do on holiday. If you have a slow booking experience, then ultimately it is less likely that the customer will have the patience to book with you. And they might even go to a competitor if they've opened up a few different tabs. So we need to make sure that this is super fast, which it is. It is lightning fast. We've also made images much more prominent throughout the experience, because that's something that we've learned pretty rapidly from both the previous widget and the early prototyping stage. Images have a huge impact on a customer's understanding of the widget and their kind of like willingness to book. So again, a bit of, side advice, make sure that you've got like some really solid images because it will entice people directly. We've tried to do a lot of work around how we display like the key information at the very top here. So this is all the same information that you had previously. The only thing that's new is the tagline, which you may have found in your like activity creation flow. But this is all like presenting the same information as previously. This page where you start configuring your booking has been again rethought. One of the kind of consistent pieces of feedback is that people were missing whether or not they were participating. So now that's much more clear. This is the basket. This is like the fundamental thing that we could not do with the previous flow. So we can keep shopping. So I've booked a kayaking experience, and let's also do a rescue thing. Yes, I'm participating in this myself. Choose continue, add to basket, go to checkout. So you can see here, there's two things in my basket. This space reserved is purely a conversion tool, and we'll hopefully get more people to go through with that flow. Crucially, you don't need to just be booking activities together. You can book activities, rentals, vouchers, class passes, essentially anything that you can sell can be checked out together. And one of the ways that we've had to like iterate on this a lot is when it comes to vouchers. So we do often get asked about like discounts, various kind of like voucher implementations. But the challenge is with a basket like this, where you might have some specific voucher that's like maybe just for the 0 to hero activity, or it might be for the basket as a whole. We need to have like a pretty complex rule set about how vouchers apply that also feels intuitive to the customer. And I like to think achieved that now. So a part of that as well is how you actually use a voucher. Again, I'm sure you guys have had feedback. If you've purchased an activity voucher, if you purchased a credit voucher or a class pass, you need to redeem them in slightly different ways in the existing widget. In this new widget, we have a page where you enter your voucher code. From that, we will then dynamically direct people to the correct part of the widget, or apply it in a certain way, or apply filters throughout the experience so that it's clear what kind of benefits they're going to be able to get from the voucher code that they've put in, assuming it's valid. This was a huge improvement again, and should hopefully directly increase your conversion rate. Something that is not in this in the live version yet, but will hopefully be this week, though I can't guarantee that, is rentals. So this is a preview version. Rentals are an incredibly complicated thing to give to a user to try and book conceptually, because in order to display what availability there is, we need to know what that person would like. However, what that person would like might depend on the availability. So there's kind of like circular dependency of information. So we had to do a huge amount of testing here, and big hats off to Jamie and Martin again, because this, I think, involved, out of everything, the most staring at the ceiling and kind of iteration across any part of the widget. So this is demo, so it may break. It won't break when it is actually going live. So I'm saying 2 people are going. I would like 2 surfboards and some crayons. Don't question that. I'm taking part myself, and now I choose a date. So green days mean that what you've chosen is exactly available on that day on at least one time slot. So I might want my surfboard and crayons for Tuesday. I can then choose a start time. And this is where things get a bit crazy. It hopefully is incredibly intuitive for the customer because we break down the start time and the maximum duration that they can rent in a really, like, hopefully, as you can see, like a really digestible format. So if I want to start at 1 p.m., I can see that I can rent this stuff for a maximum of 4 hours. And that's that. This is still need to be tidied up, but you can then see if I've chosen 1 p.m., I can choose for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and it can give me the start and end time for any kind of interval in that window. This breaks down, this gives as much information to the customers as we reasonably can give in a simple way that allows them to also change what they're looking for depending on availability. Because if you were going, if you're going stand-up paddleboarding, for example, you might want to rent a like normal supboard, but you then realize that actually on the day that I would like to go, there's no standard boards available, but there are foam boards, and you don't really care. So you could just remove your request for a normal supboard and instead get a foam board or a inflatable. So hopefully that will provide like the most seamless experience that we could think of to customers. And from your perspective as well, there should be maximum flexibility that doesn't provide too much complexity, which ironically, that's a really complex sentence. But from your perspective, you just say essentially like the start window and the end time. So paddleboards are rentable from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you have to rent them in half-an-hour slots or 15-minute slots. With a minimum duration of an hour. So they could rent 1 hour, 1 hour 15, 1 hour 30, which is essentially what we got here. So that's most of what I wanted to share. We've got something I'll just like talk about a little bit is memberships. So memberships is obviously like quite in alpha at the moment, and there's a lot that we still need to do on it from like an outlet's perspective as well as the customer's perspective. But memberships is being treated as like a first-class citizen in the new widget experience, which means it's much easier to purchase a membership. You'll be able to add more information and it'll be much clearer, as well as, you know, not being like hidden out like in the very bottom. And when it comes to checking out, this isn't implemented yet, but it is, you know, very high up on the to-do list soon. It will much more seamlessly integrate into the checkout experience for members. So someone who's purchased a membership should be able to see pretty easily what that membership gives them, and what discounts and what benefits and what any kind of specific like members only activities that unlocks for them. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? Or like anything that someone wants me to dive into more detail on? So Lily's asking why people should move to the new widget, and the primary reason is it should directly increase your conversion rate, which means more revenue for you. The obvious, like as part of that, is your customer satisfaction. Essentially, it should be much higher as well. There are still scenarios where people get confused with the booking experience if they're trying to do something like especially if they're not tech savvy and they're trying to do something that's a bit more obscure. So maybe they're trying to purchase or use a membership, or they've got an activity voucher that they're trying to redeem in the wrong area. The new widget should address all of those kind of more obscure scenarios. Yes, I was actually going to cover when and where do you enable this? So this is now generally available. We're not switching it on by default for centers. If you go into toolset and then widget and then options, so you just configure your normal widget, there's a checkbox that says enable new widget. You can do it there. There's also a blog post which Lily can put into the chat, which will allow you to read up more on like how you enable it and the consequences of it. Fundamentally though, if you enable the new widget and you hear any kind of negative feedback or you're not sure about it, please, you can just switch it off immediately. Just uncheck that checkbox. But please do actually let us know why and what you thought of it so that we can, internalize that and improve that. Lawrence asks, if rentals are not ready yet, then do we stay with the old widget? If you are relying on rentals, for today, stick with the old widget. But yeah, the new rentals experience should hopefully be released this week. Yeah, it will be very, very shortly. Because yeah, it is essentially there, like you've seen me demo it. Where do we view the pixel tracking for reporting purposes? So currently there's not a, so that this, actually there's a whole other bit that I want to talk about in a second. But we can't currently display the reports for pixel tracking. This is, because of the way the pixel works, it will report directly to your Facebook advertising account. So we essentially insert your pixel into the page, and then it will ping your Facebook events. I think it's like Facebook marketing. I can't remember. It will ping your Facebook account with all of the events that we trigger. So essentially, you'd be needing to look at Facebook for all of that information. When will discount codes be an option? It is something that we are like constantly considering, and we constantly hear stuff about that. It is not currently scheduled. Our scheduling goes about like 3-4 months from now. So I can't essentially say anything with like great detail on that front. Discount codes has been on our radar for a very long time. But there's always been other stuff that we've needed to focus on as well. But genuinely, actually, as well, if you email product@eola.co with your thoughts on discounts, like why they're important to you, then again, that will help feed into what we build and how we build it. When tailoring a widget, the Experiences tab always needs to be clicked into when we have already filtered what activity should show when setting up the widget. Can this additional step be removed? Yes. So something that we would like to do is any page where there's a list of stuff, if there's only one option to show, we would just like to skip that page entirely. So it's not just that page, but yeah, literally any page. So if you've created a category, for example, and there's only one bookable thing in that category at that time, then when someone clicks on that category, it would just go straight to that bookable experience rather than having to click on the only thing that's available. It's not available yet, and we're not working on it currently, but it is like in the pipeline. That's good. I think most people are used to me saying that as hearing that as my answer to a lot of things. Essentially, like I don't like giving like exact timelines, because it realistically, there's a lot of competing things that we need to think about at any given time. And if we say a specific deadline and we miss it, then that's people as well. How easy is it to update items like extending vouchers with the new widget? So that's the sort of thing that won't be, so the new widget is purely about the booking experience itself for end customers. So the configuration of the activities, of the rentals, of the vouchers, that will all still take place in the existing like business app. Extending vouchers is something that I believe we are working on. Jamie, if you're in the chat and can remember, let me know where that is. We've done some work on customizing voucher lengths and validities. I genuinely can't remember if we have made it so that you can directly extend an existing voucher. Keep an eye on the chat for that. Lily is asking, can I please show how to move to the new widget? Hold on. I will do that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the general direction that we are going in as eola. And I mentioned on the Facebook community recently that it feels like we've been more quiet recently than we were historically. And that's because we've been doing some huge work behind the scenes. And part of that is the new widget. But also the new widget has set foundations that we're going to be moving forward with across the board, which I'll talk about in a second here. So let me share my screen again. Screen. So if you go to tool sets, widgets, options, this is the checkbox that you need to check. If you hit enable new widget, then your new widget will be displayed. And if you are unhappy with the experience, like I said, please let us know why more than anything else. But you can uncheck it straight away and it will just return to the previous widget. And then you can also turn it back on again, maybe when we've resolved whatever experience problem you've had. So the final bit that I wanted to talk about is, yes, the general direction for eola and why we've been a bit quiet. So we are taking a lot of our learnings from the widget flow, as well as the kind of technical things that we've built. And it's really hard to ignore how much of a step up the new widget is. And we want to take that experience and apply it to the entirety of eola, including the business management side. There is a huge amount of stuff that we are going to be working on and already are working on. You can see here is just an example page. We are massively improving the design. We are leveling up the experience of essentially every single part of our application. And we are, in the same sort of way, rethinking the experience. Just before I flick to this, I saw someone ask another question about reporting. Reporting is one of those first things that we are working on. The reporting as it stands throughout the application is pretty minimal, where we've got a few different CSVs that you can download, which is, it works, but it's not exactly the most useful it could possibly be. So we are reimagining we are imagining what reporting looks like. So we're going to have snapshot views, going to have breakdowns, we're going to have a much more kind of I want to say competent, a larger reporting experience, where you can break down different parts of your business. And ultimately, we are motivated to provide you with really good data and an analysis, because if you can make better decisions about how you run your business, ultimately you should make more money, which means we make more money. So I love having our goals aligned like that. That's something that we're actively working on at the moment. And there's quite a few things that need to be in place before you'll see that being rolled out, which is why I'm not again, giving any timelines or showing anything here, but that is definitely coming soon, TM. Any other questions about this or the widget? Yes, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, Lily's posted the blog there where you can read up more on the widget, how to enable it. And yeah, I'm going to ask again, like, please, anyone who's using the new widget, if you don't have like any particular feedback, please still just let us know what you think about it. Because it's all well and good like hearing about any kind of like bugs or anything that exist, but it's also really good to hear what's working well, because then we know again how to like direct our efforts. How can we brand up the new widget? So part of that is already complete. So in your tool set, and then if you go to outlet settings, you can upload your logo, and that logo will appear in the top left of the new widget, as well as we are moving to including your logo in more customer communication, so emails. It's not a trivial thing for us to do, which is why we haven't just like we haven't done it previously, because we need to make sure that the way that we display logos is kind of like coherent, because people have very different kinds of logos. Tony asks, where do we send feedback to? So you can either feed it back to help@eola.co, but I would, if you have anything specific around like just direct product feedback, please email product@eola.co. And then, yeah, we will, obviously I can't promise that anything that you report, like we will, straight away change or necessarily change at all, but it will definitely be noted, understood, and it will help us guide the direction of what we're doing. Like, I want to reiterate as well, like none of us at the moment, it's changing soon, but like none of us at eola have run an activity center before. So every single thing that we have built has been purely based on talking to you guys, talking to end customers, and just like iterating on the product, doing interviews, and it is all incredibly useful for us to build eola. We need it, and hopefully any feedback that you give will directly help you as well. Yeah, Jamie's backed in the addresses there. Thanks. Cool. I think if there are no other questions, we can leave it there. Thank you guys for coming, and yeah, I'm super excited about this. This should be a massive improvement, as well as, yeah, I think over the next few months you're going to see a huge improvement to eola across the board. I'm super excited, and I mean that genuinely, not just like, yeah, it's exciting. I am super pumped. Great. Happy Monday. See you guys around.